yourself and post any questions you have in the chat and unmute yourself so we can hear from you. Our invocation today will be led by Drew Bisbee, and Chris Berge will lead us in the pledge. Drew.
Please bow your heads. Dear Lord, I come to you today with a grateful heart for all the many blessings that we all share in this wonderful country. But I also come to you with a plead for your blessing and your hand on those that are going through tough times throughout the world, namely in Afghanistan, Haiti, other places near and far that we either know about or don't know about. We ask for your blessing on this food today, that we can nourish our bodies and be a service to you and others. In Jesus' name, amen.
Will everybody please join me, face the flag, and pledge allegiance to the flag. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Drew. Thank you, Chris. So there won't be any lunch meeting next week. There will be a social held at Dan Griffith's place, Weather Engineers. There's flyers on your tables. Please RSVP so we'll know how many people Dan's hosting, and we really appreciate Dan hosting the social next week. Also, if you have any questions, get with Lee Davis or William Milne. There's a board meeting immediately following lunch today. Drew mentioned the disaster in Haiti. We all received an email that was forwarded from our district governor about ways to contribute directly to the Haiti relief funds. More formal funding will be, done through district as we go. But if you're interested in contributing right now, Sean put information on the Patty's table out there, or you can refer to the email that you got. Rotary Leadership Institute was moved to October due to COVID concerns. We haven't had branded apparel in our club for a minute. So there's sign up papers on the desk and Patty's desk. If you want to get a branded polo or a branded work shirt, just sign up. Patty will be happy to take it out of your account. Also, have a special announcement. I would like to call Dan Maloney to the podium.
Thank you, President Ike. I haven't seen you guys for a while. All my fellow Zoomers out there. It's good to see everybody in person. Ike, I have to say, you look great on Zoom, but in person, you're stunning. I just want you to know that. It's almost overwhelming. I will, and when I'm watching from my office, I'm hitting my keyboard constantly, trying to buy a vowel, because if Raul's not a game show host in the next 4 or 5 years, something's completely wrong. Matt Hebner, when I see you, you should have a glass of scotch, a cigar, and you should be with those blue collar comedy guys. I mean, it's your next step. I'm going to be the director at the Louisville Zoo. So I will be departing Jacksonville, but I will not be leaving Rotary. Hopefully they'll have me in Louisville. It's a zoo that I've had my eye on for some time. It's a great community. Scott, is Scott right here? Is Scott here? He reached out to me, explains, he said it's his home state. He lives north of Louisville, and it makes sense that everybody we've met is very, very friendly. Not as friendly as Jacksonvillians, but they come close. So in any event, this has been a great ride for me. It's my first Rotary Club. John McCorvey brought me into the club, and I'll never forget that. Marshall Butler and Jerry McCool did my orientation. You know, I learned quickly afterwards that that urine samples and cavity checks were not part of the Rotary requirement, and there's no 5-way test. You know, and unfortunately, our club doesn't have an HR department, so that's even better. Anyway, guys, I really appreciate it. Hopefully, I'll see you, you know, in the next few weeks as well. I start on the 11th of October. Thank you so much for everything.
Congratulations, Dan. Really have enjoyed being in a club with you and appreciate you. And we will call ahead and warn everybody in Rotary Louisville. Matthew Hevener, family of Rotary.
All right, so Dan thinks I should have a blue collar. Here's the funny part. Let's see. So we have a few birthdays. We have on the 19th, we have Kevin Hurd. So, and then, but also we have Alton Yates on the 19th. And he will be celebrating his 85th birthday. And interesting, 61 years ago on this day, he also received his best birthday present ever in that he was married on that day. So he's also celebrating his 61st anniversary. We have a couple of medical concerns. Let's see, we've got that Carter Rosenblum's wife, Lee, that she is having her appendix removed, I think right now, or like, so if we, if you can, you know, stop and think for a moment and pray. And then Jim Kelly asked that we pray for his daughter, Laura, as well. And so in keeping with my blue collar comedy tour, which I find that it may just be something where there's a whole lot of self-deprecation going on. I have a few items that I've made a catalog of that are why I can't have nice things. So even though sidewalk chalk floats, it does not flush very well. If you are going to give your child, your 2-year-old, well, let me take a second. My father kept telling me, he kept saying, Matt, he's your meal ticket. He's your meal ticket. Just put a golf club in his hand. He'll be like Tiger Woods. If you stick a golf club in his hand at 2 years old, I'm telling you, he'll play golf. You'll be able to retire off of that child. So I actually have a little bit of a passion, and that is antique golf clubs. So I took and cut down a hickory shafted putter for him and gave it to him. And about a day later, I had to replace my television. So it's another reason. Some of these reasons why I can't have nice things are self-inflicted. And then finally, the final one is, if you plan on having carpet anywhere in your house, even though all your older boys have already, you know, gotten past spilling stuff, the 2-year-old will not respect that. So so just 2-year-olds and carpets don't mix very well. Time to go to tile or laminate or something that's indestructible. So you all have a wonderful afternoon, and that is our Family of Rotary report.
Thank you, Matt. I've been trying to convince Jennifer to upgrade the TV before football season. So I'll see you two guys over at the house this evening. Sergeant of Arms report, Rahul Sharma, followed by the program introduction, Sean Asmuth.
President Ike, thank you very much. And I'd like to buy 4 vowels as I make my way over to Lee Davis, who has a guest today. Lee?
Thank you very much. I'd like to introduce my son, Aaron Davis. He's a senior at UNF, and I'm so glad he came today. And I also wanted to make a quick mention about our social next week. We have the flyers on the table. We'll be collecting school supplies for Ramona Elementary, which is one of the schools that we do the dictionary distribution at every year. So if you could just pick up something, that would be great. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Lee and Aaron. It's great to have you here. I'm going to make my way over now to JK. Jimmy Kelly has a lovely guest today he'd like to introduce. Jimmy?
I'm going to stay seated because the weather's been bothering my knees a little bit and getting up and down. But if you'll stand up, you're a lot younger. Meredith Smith is the executive director of Comprehensive Health, and we gave them a charity grant not long ago. We got to be friends, and the next thing I knew, I was on the board, and now I have another job, which I was trying to get rid of. But Meredith has been a pleasure to get to know. She runs a terrific operation over there. It's right across the bridge on Timaquana Road on the left at Ortega Farms. Call her up one Monday, Wednesday, or Saturday morning. Go over and take a tour. It's incredible what she's doing over there. And she also needs volunteers in the morning to answer the phone. So any of y'all just sitting around in your jammies not doing anything, give her a call and just they won't even put you out front. Nobody has to see you. Just answer the phone and say, let me get somebody. But at any rate, we're very happy to have Meredith.
Meredith, glad to have you here, Meredith, and thanks for all your work in the community. How about another big round of applause for Dan Maloney as we wish him all the best in his future? You know, Dan, the West Jax Rotary presence is borderless, so I want you to make a lot of noise and impact in the great state of Kentucky, and we're really glad to be associated with you. We appreciate your sense of humor and leadership. Thank you very much. It's time to humor all of you, and I have the top 5 jokes for today. Let's go ahead and begin with number 1. A man walks into a library and asks the librarian for books about paranoia. The librarian whispers, "They're right behind you." Number 2, want to hear a roof joke? The first one's on the house. Number 3, what should you do if you're attacked by a group of clowns? Go straight for the juggler. Number 4, why don't koalas count as bears? They don't have the right qualifications. And number 5, topping it out for top 5 in Raw Humor Me today, a cement mixer in a prison bus crashed on the highway. Police advise citizens to look out for a group of hardened criminals. President Ike, that concludes my top 5 humors of the day, and I am honored to send it back over to you, President Ike. Actually, I'm going to go over to President-elect Sean Asmuth. Sean, the mic is yours.
I don't know how I could possibly follow that. Is this on? Yep, good. Good afternoon, fellow Rotarians and guests. Good to see y'all. It's my pleasure to introduce our speaker today. Our speaker is Brandy Carvalho, the Director of Development and Advancement for the White Oak Conservation. She has degrees, you Gator fans will be happy to know. She has one from the University of Florida in Public Relations, Wildlife, Ecology, and Conservation. She also has a master's degree in Public Administration and another master's degree in Natural Resources. Apparently, she is a sucker for punishment. In addition to working with the White Oak Conservation, she's worked here locally for the Museum of Sciences and History here in Jacksonville and has served as the executive director for the Nassau Humane Society. I'm not sure when she sleeps, but she sits on the boards of the Baptist Medical Center in Nassau, the Nassau Racial Equality Coalition, the Nassau Education Foundation, and the Nassau County Conservation Land Acquisition and Management Program. And you just go ahead and chuckle out there. You try to say that. and she's also on the Keep Nassau Beautiful board. When I read through her bio, I thought, here's really somebody that's a kindred spirit. Because when you look at the areas of focus in Rotary, the environment, health, and the well-being of children, and water, and all of the 7 different areas of focus, and I did print them, and I'm not going to read them. But I thought, here's a kindred spirit. So please, let's give Brandy a warm West Jacksonville Rotary welcome today.
Not ding the bell or hit the gavel by accident. How is everybody? Yeah, you guys are good? Yes, we're good, everybody. So thank you so much for having me. I did not get the memo that I was supposed to bring a bunch of jokes, but next time I'll do my best. So thank you for that intro. We all sound a whole lot better when we condense it into one paragraph, but I appreciate that. And thanks for having me. And Ike, thank you so much for bringing me here. So I am at White Oak Conservation. I've been at White Oak since about 2007. I like to say I started when I was 14, but that's not true. Quick show of hands, who has been to White Oak? Who has not been to White Oak? Okay, for those that have been to White Oak, just a couple of you, give me like one word that you use to describe White Oak. Golf, incredible, amazing, I love it. Yes, delicious food, all the above, all the above. So what is White Oak? So when we talk about White Oak, I kind of jokingly say it's magical. It's where unicorns and some of the rarest, the most one-of-a-kind animals, people, and species are. And that's actually not inaccurate. So this is a photo of one of the species that we work with. This is called no copy. It's a critically endangered species found in one place in the wild. And it's representative of the around 30 species that we do work with. Oh, and before I get any further, I want to say, if anybody has any questions, please don't hesitate to stop me. If you have specific animal questions, I encourage you to ask Dan while you still have them. So we started with Okapi, and I mentioned we work with about 30 different species of animals. Some of them are species that you're incredibly familiar with, like rhinos and zebras. Our property is home to about 400 animals. The entire property is 17,000 acres. And that encompasses the golf course, the recreation, but really our primary focus in our work is our species conservation. So you can see our mission up here. Truncated, we really work to save endangered species. We do that through 3 main pillars: conservation, education, and stewardship. And so I'll go through each one and kind of give you examples of what we do and how we do it and what we're looking forward to in the future. So conservation, the underpinning of what we do. So the species that we work with range from native species like the Florida panther, which I'll show you a little video of in a minute, to exotic species like cheetahs. But our work is around creating sustainable populations of these species that are good candidates for either current recovery or reintroduction programs or future reintroduction programs. And we also work to partner with our other AZA facilities to help create good, viable populations around the United States. We also learn a lot from these animals, and we can kind of share the magic of conservation by giving people amazing experiences. I don't know, man. Hey, you know what? AZA, and I threw that pitch in there just for you. So the Association of Zoos and Aquarium is the accreditation agency for all of our lovely, high-level, high-performing zoos like the Jacksonville Zoo and the Louisville Zoo. Yes. Thanks. Yeah. So give you an example. I just mentioned some of the species that we work with. Florida panthers. I just kind of wanted to show you a little bit of video because I know I get extremely boring when you start listening to me talk. So this is one of our rescued Florida panthers that we have. This is Pepper, kind of showing you the habitats that they live in, like big open spaces. We really work to allow the big cats to be big cats. We hung a little meat treat up in the tree. Yeah, cool, huh? So I feel like this is representative of kind of what we do. Our model is to allow these animals to behave as naturally as possible. And we do that through large spaces, replicating their natural wild dynamics. If they're a herd species, we allow them to live in herds. If they're solitary, like panthers, we allow them to live solitary. So we're really trying to make it as natural as possible. I just wanted to throw a picture of some of our really cute little rhino calves that were born. We've had 5 white rhino calves born at White Oak in less than a year. So we work with 3 different rhino species: white rhinos, black rhinos, and greater one-horn rhinos. But the white rhinos are really just kind of the cutest. So I wanted to make sure you saw a cute photo and a video. So again, you can see. So the calf is there. There's actually a couple of calves in this yard. These were 2 of the 5 that were recently born. Mom's being a good mom. But again, kind of showing you how we like to take care of our animals and how we like to give them the space and those interactions with the other animals. Mom's being a good mom. She's protective. I promise nobody got hurt after that. There we go. Okay, so you saw some of those species that you know pretty well, but we also work with a lot of species that you might not be very familiar with. So bongos, Somali wild ass, blue-billed curassows. These are all species that have literally hundreds living in the wild. So for them to actually survive as a species on this planet, we almost have to rely on the animals that are in managed care at places like White Oak and the AZA, other AZA facilities. And you may have heard, hopefully you did, if we did our PR job well, you did. We're now the home to currently 12 Asian elephants. Over the long term, next few years, we're gonna have 30 in a 2,500 acre habitat. And these are retired performing animals. So they are now living in herds. I have a few photos for you. They have a huge pond. They're really being kind of the most fantastic specimens in herd animals. So they are living the life and looking forward to being at White Oak for decades and decades. Our youngest one is 8. Our oldest one is around 50. And these are just photos of them making themselves comfortable in their new home. And we'll go from the 9,000-pound elephant to the 1-ounce bird. So we talked about the animals that are at White Oak. Then how do we connect them to conservation in the wild? So what's that tie? So this is actually a bird called a Florida grasshopper sparrow. It's about 1 ounce. And it is considered to be one of, if not the most endangered bird in all of North America. So White Oak, along with several partners, we started a breeding program several years ago. So we breed these tiny little birds in human care, which is actually very difficult to do. Hatch them, raise them to a certain age, and then release them back into their native habitat. And we've done that with over 300 birds over the past couple of years. The populations were somewhere probably between like 40 and 80 when we started. It's kind of hard to count, as you can see in the wild. They're hard to find. So, but they estimate there were around 30 breeding pairs at the time. So to add in those hundreds to those numbers, that's pretty significant work. I didn't hook up my audio, but I do have a nice little video on the Florida grasshopper sparrows later. Also other bird species, Mississippi sandhill cranes. We've been breeding and releasing them back into the wild. Whooping cranes. We recently started a whooping crane program, and we're now in the process of building a huge breeding facility so we can reintroduce them back into the wild regularly. And our Florida panther that you met just a moment ago, typically our Florida panther work is rehab and returning back to the wild. So anytime a Florida panther is injured or cubs are orphaned, they can come to White Oak. They have a 14-acre reconditioning pen. We're very hands-off. We basically prepare them to be taken back out into the wild. Since Florida panther populations are under 200, every single animal counts. So we have now released 20, I believe, back into the wild. Also, through our conservation connections and partnerships, there's programs that our staff lends their time to. These are Dama gazelles that, even though they are at White Oak, our work has been working with partners internationally and in the US to develop recovery and reintroduction programs. And then on the right, we have some of our staff actually going just a little bit up north for some bird banding. These are American oyster catchers. I had to write it down. I'm not a bird person. I had it right here. So our staff, as much as they can, lend their time to other programs. Education, our next pillar. So COVID, like a lot of programs, really put a damper into kind of what we did. Historically, we would work with partner schools and do field trips, outreaches, philanthropy projects, really in-depth partnerships with these schools. Now we're looking at our model and trying to think, how do we best impact local students? Normally we work with between 1,500 and 2,500 students a year, very customized, very personal to their curriculum, to their teacher. And now we're looking at how do we move forward in the future with potential restrictions, but it's still a priority for what we do, and we look forward to expanding that. A part of our education, we do a lot of training. So we work with about 30 interns each year. They come, most of them get to stay at White Oak. We provide housing so that anyone who wants these internships and is qualified isn't held back by not being able to afford short-term housing in the area. We also have a lot of local commuter interns. So if you know any recent grads or upcoming grads that are interested in getting experience working with wildlife, we encourage you to reach out. And stewardship. So I mentioned we're about 17,000 acres. So that's a lot of land to keep up. And a lot of the land that we have now, we actually have purchased in the past 7 to 8 years. So we're converting it from one purpose into good natural land for the animals to thrive on and the wildlife to thrive on. So we've done a lot of longleaf pine restoration projects. You can see this. And gopher tortoises, we do a lot of, we have a nice large gopher tortoise population on our property. So protecting that space protects the gopher tortoises, which then in turn protects the hundreds of species that use their burrows and their habitats to thrive as well. Bat houses on our property. We've recently started doing a lot of bat houses. So we're also doing a lot of research on the local bat populations. And then bees. Our culinary team manages a whole garden. So they actually have a sustainable food source for the food that we do serve to guests. So when you come out there, you're going to have ingredients from our garden. And then bees, they actually have started a honey production program. So that's actually a chef right there. He just kind of learned how to do this and took it on. And now they have a very sustainable food program. And I said, you know, going back to what is White Oak, you know, White Oak is a lot of things. I focus a lot on the animals and the education, but we're a staff of about 160 people. And we make, you know, a lot of programs and a lot of things happen. And it takes maintenance workers, and it takes food and beverage servers, and it takes wildlife specialists to really make this place happen. So I'll also throw out to you all that we are frequently hiring positions thanks to our growth that we like to post on our websites. If you know folks that are looking for jobs, we actively advertise them. All right, so how do folks visit White Oak? So you've seen all of these great photos and heard a little bit about it. We do private tours. A lot of people who have heard of White Oak or aren't really that familiar with us think that we're shut off to the public and you have to have like a passcode and a special key to get in. We actually started doing tours for the community several years ago, about 7 or 8 years ago. So you can call. Right now we're doing private tours only for safety protocol reasons, so small groups. We also do golf. So I mentioned golf. We have a lovely course, lovely 9-hole course. We have private events. So meetings, day meetings, birthday parties, whatever it is that you want to celebrate, we can do that. We do horseback rides as well. So it's called Safari by Saddle. All of the money that comes in from our tours and all of the money that comes in from any of those tour related activities or those events that we do actually goes right into funding our conservation projects as well. We do have social media. So we're on we have our e-newsletter, Facebook, Instagram. Follow us, like us, whatever the kids are doing these days, and see lots of great videos and photos that we post. So I was told to, and I like to leave more room for questions because I know people have them. So I would love to open the floor and hear what you want to hear from me.
Rotarians, at this time, if you have a question, if you could just raise your hand and I'll walk over with the microphone so our members in person and on Zoom can hear your question. Shep College.
If this is confidential, I understand, but I'm trying to get some idea of the scope of White Oak, and it's huge. Can you tell me the number of employees and the annual expense budget?
Sure can. Yep. So the employees, it's about 160 full-time. That does not include our part-time or on-call employees necessarily. So like during the summer, we bring in a lot of additional summer help. So we hire a lot of local high school students to give them jobs during the summer, and they're helping us to kind of do, you know, upkeep on the property. So that doesn't include them. It also doesn't include those interns, which are actually paid internships. Budget wise, so the nonprofit is between $4 and $5 million. We haven't actually finished everything else. Correct. Yeah.
Brandy, Carl Dawson has a question.
I have 4 endangered wild asses, also known as donkeys,
Yeah.
that I need a home for.
Oh, Dan. Oh. So,
They're delicious.
we would be happy to send you resources for local organizations that do animal rescue. We're not permitted to do any of that. And with the donkeys, so they're amazing species. They are derivative of the Somali wild ass, but they are different species. So we actually couldn't house them. But I would be more than happy to send you all the local rescue and farm groups that we know of, that I've had good experiences with.
Hi, I think I read a news story recently about 2 elephants that recognized each other after a 20-year separation, and they were performing elephants. Did that happen at White Oak?
So the 30 elephants that we are now managing, so about half are here and half are in a facility that we manage down south. They're transitioning here. They were all part of the same group, so they already were familiar with each other.
Oh, okay.
As we are reintroducing them to each other, maybe to animals they hadn't seen in a while, they do it very carefully, because there's lovely examples of that, and then there's the opposite that could happen. So we're reestablishing herds. We've done it so far with that 12. They're actually living in one herd. So we are very careful. Everything we do is under what is called protected contact. So there's always a barrier, something between us and that animal. And then we treat the animals carefully like that as well. They'll get slowly introduced, they'll have something between them, and then they'll, as they get more comfortable, actually put them together and then add more.
It sounded like you also have different areas kind of separated, whether it's by fence or some other means. And I suppose that's to prevent predation.
Yeah, so depending on the species, we have different types of fencing and barriers. So most of the species have their own habitats. We do mix some species together, so we call them mixed species pens, but like certain antelopes can live with rhinos. I mean, they live with different animals in the wild all the time. Why not? So depending on the concern of what kind of local predator there might be, that helps to dictate the habitat. We really, deer are going to get into some of the rhino habitats. That's fine. The ones that have the antelopes in there, we're going to make sure that there's fencing, not just bars. Birds, birds are definitely somewhat of a concern. So we have netted habitats for them. And then most of the other animals are actually going to be pretty okay. We haven't quite we don't know what's going to happen when other animals get into the elephant habitat yet, but hopefully they see a 9,000-pound challenge as not being a smart one.
Last quick question. Bienville, is it on premises, Bienville Plantation, with all the phosphate pits that you filled up and the great bass fishing? No. Okay.
I don't. Yeah.
It was near there, I think.
Okay. Yeah.
Thank
Yeah. And
you.
there's a lot of really great, beautiful properties. So location wise, we're on the St. Mary's River. So we're technically in Yulee. Of our 17,000 acres, there's about 1,100 acres north on the other side of St. Mary's. And we're in Yulee, close to Hilliard. So there's a lot of great private land and small spaces out there, but I definitely don't know them all. Maybe they need some donkeys.
JK, I promise I'll make it over to you. Jeff has a question.
Can you tell us about the founding of White Oak Plantation and a little bit about the evolution?
Yeah.
And maybe where the name comes from?
Yeah.
I don't think of that as being an area where white oak trees are natural
Sure.
for the area.
Yeah. So history of White Oak. So White Oak as we know it, White Oak Conservation Center was founded in the late 70s, very early 80s by a man named Howard Gilman. His family owned a paper company, so they owned the White Oak property to harvest trees for paper. So which they had purchased in 1938, I believe. Prior to that, it was actually a working rice plantation. So Howard really kind of felt like his family had taken so much back from nature that he wanted to give back. And he was inspired when he went on a trip to Africa to work with endangered species. So he started bringing animals to White Oak. He had a lot of resources. So he built White Oak not only as a conservation facility, but as a place to host meetings and conferences around the missions that he cared about. So he was passionate about heart health, public policy, the arts, which is why we have a dance studio. Like, who would have put the Baryshnikov dance studio in the middle of Yulee? Well, Howard Gilman did, because he loved the arts and he wanted a place for dancers to be able to come, disconnect from the rest of the world and focus on their art. So that's why we have all these amazing resources to use for our function. So Howard Gilman passed away in the late 90s. The Howard Gilman Foundation took ownership of the property after he passed. They operated it as long as they could, but they're an arts-focused foundation based out of New York. And during the economic downturn of the late 2000s, they just got hit by a bunch of angles and had to sell the property. So in 2013, the current property owners purchased the property. So their names are Mark and Kimber Walter. They're based out of Chicago. So we are privately owned. And they are huge conservationists. We're actually part of a global collective called Walter Conservation that connects us with their two main reserves that they own or have mostly ownership of the land in Africa. So huge conservationists, huge education. The name. So there's a couple of different stories, but the white oak trees actually used to be pretty prevalent in the areas. The white oak name dates back centuries. But a couple of different stories on there.
Great questions so far. Keep them coming. Jimmy, you have a question?
Just a quick question. Do you still have the golf course and do you limit the number that can play in a day?
Yes. So we still we limit it to 24 on the golf course at a time. We typically don't put more than probably 3 groups out. But if you have you played? Yeah. So like even if there's other group out there, you might not even see them. Yep. So actually, if anyone wants to play, you're welcome to give me a call. I got a card. And we can couple golf and wildlife tours too. But yeah, the golf experience is great. You show up usually around 9 o'clock. You play 9 holes. You have lunch at the gazebo. You make the turn. You play the 9 back, or don't. You don't have to play the second. And then you get to hang out in a beautiful course all day.
Any more questions here in person? Marshall Butler, I'm going to go over to you and see if there's any questions in our Zoom chat room. No questions in our Zoom. How about a big round of applause for our guest speaker today, Brandy?
I appreciate you all having me, and I'll leave that open. One last thing I just would love to say is, especially if you've been around here for a long time, you know that White Oak, we were very secluded and we were very private for a long time, and we have a different model now, and we want to be part of our community. We want to support our schools, and we want to support our neighbors. So please don't ever hesitate. I got cards there to reach out if you've ever want to connect for any reason at all.
Thanks very much, Brandy. How about another round of applause for Brandy? That was great. And we will now send it back over to President Ike.
Thank you, Brandy. Awesome presentation. Your speaker gift is right under your laptop, so I give that to you, right? All right. Once again, social next week. No meeting here at Timuquana. Social at 5:30 at Dan Griffith's Place, Weather Engineers downtown. It's going to be a lot of fun. So please RSVP on DACBB so we can get a good head count. Lee Davis has everything set up. We're going to feed you, and we'll have a lot of fun. We're also going to be taking up contributions for Ramona Elementary to get them school supplies. Past President Ed's already given me $10 because he doesn't want to go shopping. I'll go shopping for him. Anybody else wants to just give me cash, I'll pick it up. Board meeting in 5 minutes. Yes, sir.
I have one more family of Rotary update to share with everyone.
Okay.
Today, Gigi and Kevin Carroll are also celebrating a wedding anniversary, 37 years.
37 years. Gigi was a child bride. Good grief. Okay. All right. Board meeting in 5 minutes. Don't be late. It'll be heavily fined. Gigi Carroll, I'll call you on your cell phone. Mike O'Brien will lead us in the four-way test. He's on Zoom.
Thank you, President Ike, and welcome, fellow Rotarians. Let's repeat the four-way test, all the things we think, say, and do as Rotarians. Number one, is it the truth? Number two, is it fair to all concerned? Number three, will it build better friendships? And number four, will it be beneficial to all concerned?
Our quote of the week is from Colin Powell. Perpetual optimism is a force multiplier. Have a great week.
Congratulations, Gigi.
Thank you very much. Have a great week, everybody.
Thanks.
You too. Congratulations.
Thank you. Thank you. You too, Alton. What was that?
I didn't think you were 37 years old.
Oh, you're the best. I'm so happy I attended today. Thank you.
Take care of yourself, okay? Bye-bye.
Thanks. You guys too. Take care. Bye-bye.